Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back for the final review of 2025. I can't believe we've made it this far, and I can't believe we've got to a point with a driver's champion, and it's Norris. So, welcome to the review. I'm going to today just go over the more of the contenders side of things of the race, because I don't want to deep dive into every other team because it was a fairly boring race, and I'm going to do season reviews over the next few weeks anyways. So mainly looking at it from a contenders aspect, and fuck me, it was a tough watch. It was so boring. We were waiting for anything to happen, anything to make things a little bit more interesting. So the race rating for me is a 5. Bang average, like literally bang average. The only thing that was making it watchable was the fact that there could be at one moment anything could happen, and then maybe that changes things. But as far as I'm concerned, it was pretty darn boring. And yeah, that's the main takeaways of it. But let's still go through what happened. So, qualifying, Max Verstappen, man, has got to be one of the best 2 qualifying laps in a row I've ever seen. Honestly, the second lap especially the flawlessness of Verstappen in a crunch situation is just remarkable. Like, to be able to put together a lap. So the first lap, the reason I say the second lap especially is because the first lap wasn't as impressive, in my opinion, because he had the tow. So in the first lap, he did get the tow from Sonoda, and which was very orchestrated, and it was clearly shown on the broadcast. Second lap, man, none of them had a tow. The McLarens went at it, and Verstappen went at it, and Verstappen just literally, he just came alive. The car came alive, and the combination of them both created one of the best laps I've seen. It was just such a good lap, like just a dominant, flawless lap. Didn't make any errors whatsoever. What can you say about it, really? So Verstappen clutched up on the Saturday, did what he needed to do, made it interesting for Sunday. Norris out-qualified Piastri. So sort of after qualifying, you would say, yeah, Piastri was sort of out of it. Although Russell did look to be decently quick, so he could play a factor. So that was qualifying. Super excited, obviously, for Sunday, which was a midnight start for us here in Melbourne. And, man, it was tough to stay awake. So Verstappen got the jump and just dominated, man. He just dominated the whole way through, and he obviously didn't look back. Like, There was no looking back as soon as he, and that was sort of like expected. As soon as he got that lead at the start of the race like that, when does Verstappen ever give something like that up? When does he not set the pace and just break away with a mad stint? And that's exactly what he did. Even when, Norris got over, Piastri overtook Norris in that first lap. Even later into the stint, Verstappen just didn't fall away. Like, Piastri just couldn't, reel him in. And you would have thought that maybe once the hard came into its element, Piastri could have started to bring that gap down. He did a little bit, but then Verstappen just neutralized it. So any advantage that Piastri tried to gain with the hard tyre was just neutralized by Verstappen's pace. So Max, easily class driver of the weekend. Unbelievable stuff, really. Lando champion, of course. What a race for him. Congratulations to him, obviously. He's had a great season, ups and downs, just like all 3 of the contenders. So, whoever won it deserved it, in my opinion. And I'm glad that we are seeing a McLaren win. Obviously, Max is still super deserving, but 4 years in a row. Personally, I like some variance. So happy for Lando, happy with Max, happy with Oscar's season. They all deserved it. They all did well. They all had their peaks and troughs. So, there's a lot of hate being spread at the moment, but I think they all had a great season, and they all had their ups and downs. So whatever argument you can make for one driver, losing points here, losing points there, being favoured here, being favoured there, you can make the argument for any one of those drivers. So personally, they all did amazing, and didn't matter the outcome to me. It was going to be, obviously a preference for me was Oscar, but yeah, that's what happens. So Oscar. Oh, no, before we move on to Oscar, let's keep on Lando. Lando fended off some good pressure. So he was vulnerable to Oscar at the start, which was a bit interesting because he did start on a medium. So you would have thought he would have had a bit of a tyre delta in the first part of the stint, but Oscar was able to flick on the hard straight away, get around Lando, and just extend from there, which put a bit of extra pressure on him. But McLaren ultimately always had that tool in the back of their mind, because if it came down to it, Piastri would have just given the position up for Norris. So it didn't really affect anything, but it just did put a little bit more pressure on Lando than he probably would have liked. But he sustained the pressure. He defended some early pressure from Leclerc. And man, Russell, he would have been maybe the one to keep it interesting, but who knows? Leclerc still applied real good pressure, and he drove a great race, as did Hamilton, to be fair. Both the Ferraris were immensely different in the race than what they were in quali, so props to them for that. Now, the penalty with Yuki. You think back to 2021, Checo's defense on Hamilton. I was saying to the boys while we were watching it, oh yeah, here we go. He's a minister of defense, for Japan this time instead of Mexico. And it was so funny over the radio. Obviously, Yuki's last race, sad to see him go, but this was just so iconic. He goes, so they were reminding, Yuki that, Lando's coming up on, second, 1.4, 1 second, whatever. This lap is going to be on you. Yuki goes, oh yeah, just leave it to me, leave it to me, leave it to me. He didn't even slow him down at all. He just let him get into the DRS at the perfect spot, and then all Lando had to do was drive around him, which is what he did. And yes, with the track limits, he did get forced off. I can understand people being upset about that, but to me, the racing, the racecraft was pretty poor of Yuki there. Swerving like that, that was pretty shit. So, unfortunate, but I don't think Lando deserved a penalty. And Yuki, you could have let that go for Yuki, but I can see why they penalised him. You can't weave like that. So, unfortunate. And then Oscar obviously picked up some good form in Qatar, was denied a win. And then he was probably, I don't think there was really a way he could have won the championship this weekend. If you replayed it 100 times, I don't think he wins. There's just not, Verstappen was just not going to fault. There was no fault for Verstappen there, especially with the way his one lap pace was working. That qualifying, he was always going to get pole there. And then, once Verstappen's in front, there's nothing you can do. Bar some miracle safety car when Oscar was running long, which is also what we were hoping for. But even still then, Lando was still in championship position anyway. So Oscar, a little bit too little too late. But that's what it is. He also had a phenomenal season. So it was Lando winning the championship by 2 points only to Verstappen, which is actually crazy. I feel like it didn't feel as tight as it actually was there, just because of how bland the race was. But the team standings, obviously Mercedes came out with second place and Ferrari with a big drop off. But Aston got Haas and Racing Bulls hanged on to the sixth position. So also shout out to Alpine for their last race as an engine supplier. I think that's such a disappointment for the sport that Alpine or Renault is leaving the sport like that. But they're still a quality team, and I think they'll bounce back next year with the Mercedes power unit. So also Sauber, last race. That's been a name in F1 forever, as long as I've been in, following the sport. So it's going to be very different. And then obviously next year we've got Cadillac. So what a year, what a champion. Both McLaren take out both titles, and yeah, we'll go for some season reviews over the next few weeks, and sort of deep dive a little bit more. But awesome, man. That's a wrap for 2025. What a year. We'll come back stronger next year. And we're so keen for these reg changes. It's going to be a breath of fresh air and a very big shake up in the field. So we'll speak to you soon.